Today, let's talk about one of the most important concepts in AWS, the shared responsibility model. If your organization is moving into the cloud, as a manager, this is one of the most critical concepts you need to understand and also make your stakeholders aware. There are various resources we create in the cloud, like EC2 instances, S3 buckets, databases, and so on. But who is responsible for the security of these resources? You or AWS? The answer is both. Let's take an easy example. I live in an apartment which is managed by the building management. For security, they have provided security cameras in all common parts of the building, access card, and lock and key for my apartment. Now, does this mean I don't have any responsibility? Of course, no. My responsibilities include making sure that the access key is kept properly, keeping the lock and key safely and not giving it to others, making sure I check before opening my apartment door, and making sure I lock the door when I am out, and so on. This is exactly what the shared responsibility model is. Now imagine your apartment building as your AWS cloud. AWS provides EC2 services as infrastructure as service. Now, they are responsible for infrastructure like networking and storage, the facilities that are the data centers, servers like hosts, and the hypervisor and virtual machines. Meanwhile, you as the customer manage the operating systems, the containers, runtimes, any data, application, and any type of interface that the application interacts with the customers. This is an example of a set of shared responsibilities. Part of the responsibility belongs to the vendor, AWS, while part of it belongs to the customers, you. The AWS shared responsibility model is similar, such that it adapts to the wider cloud platform and focuses more on security. At a high level, AWS is responsible for security of the cloud, while you are responsible for security in the cloud. Now let's take a deeper look into this. When we are talking about responsibility of the cloud, we are talking about the overall infrastructural security. The AWS global infrastructure includes regions, availability zones, and edge location. So, AWS is responsible for the security of the hardware and the global infrastructure. As consumers, you have no control over this whatsoever, and you don't need to worry about this. Likewise, AWS is also responsible for the security of compute, storage, database, and networks, which we use as a managed services from AWS. Any software that is used to deliver those services is also the responsibility of AWS. Now let's take a look at what your responsibilities are. As a customer, you are responsible for the security in the cloud. Now, what that means is all the client side data encryption, authentication, and integrity is your responsibility. Server side encryption and network traffic protection. If your application encrypts its data, you manage that. If your server uses SSL certificates, you have to manage those. The operating systems you are running and the firewall configurations, the access you provide to the resources, applications, and platforms, and most importantly, the customer data you feed into AWS. You need to manage it, secure it, and back it up. When using AWS services, you, the customer, maintain complete control over your content from what you store on AWS, which services you use, and who has access to these contents. Now, this may seem like an abstract concept, but how do you implement it? AWS provides you the tools so that you can fulfill your side of the responsibility. For the control on who can access the resources, you have IAM and access management. Make sure your DevOps engineer has enabled multi-factor authentication and implements IAM best practices like providing least privilege to your accounts. You understand your product the best, so evaluate the AWS security, identity, and compliance services to understand how they can be used to help meet the security and compliance objectives of your product. If your company is just migrating to AWS, collaborate with your team and consider employing the AWS Cloud Adoption Framework and well architected best practices to plan and execute your digital transformation at scale. These are some basic examples. There are several ways the shared responsibility model helps you in achieving a secure cloud for your resources. To conclude, you inherit the physical and environmental security from AWS, while you need to make sure you enable proper safety measures to your data and servers. Now, making sure that your stakeholders are well aware and trained to understand their responsibilities is essential. I hope this video was helpful. Give this video a thumbs up and comment down if you have any specific topic you want me to cover. Subscribe to this channel and I'll see you in the next video.